we have to understand what is the meaning of the paper title is called as strategic management. So let's first understand what is the meaning of strategy. Um, it says that strategy is the pattern of activities to that seeks to achieve the objectives of the organization and adapt its scope, resources, and operations to the environmental changes in the long term. Basically, what does it mean? Now, every organization, when it is set up, there is some basic purpose behind why the organization is set up. Something has to be achieved uh, on setting up that organization. So, there are certain objectives which the organization would want to achieve, though not immediately. In the long run, it wants to achieve those objectives. So the very basic purpose of what it wants to achieve, what course of action it wants to take up in the course of time, all that. Yes, I would share the PPT. Any other resources which I have also will be shared. But right now, I will not share the PPT because the minute you get the PPT with you, and then you will maybe focus less on the class and then look at that. Yes, definitely all that whatever I have I will share that with you. The PPT will definitely be sent to you, but maybe not now, later. Yes, as you have asked later. Yes, I will share that. Okay. So the very basic purpose of the organization being set up has to be defined. What is that the organization wants to achieve? So how does it want to achieve? That is also important. What is that it wants to achieve? What is the way in which the objectives would be achieved? So all that which are described in a strategy. So they are stated in a strategy. So it talks about what is the pattern in which the objectives of the organization would be achieved. How to achieve those objectives. So for the achievement of the objectives, goals and objectives which have to be achieved, what would it take up? What course of action would it take up to understand the scope, resources, and operations too? And then it also talks about if it has an impact on the environmental changes in the long run. So, um, I mean, theoretically, we understand that in simple terms, if we put it across, what is strategy? Strategy is a plan which is taken up to ensure that the objectives of the organization are achieved over a period of time. In the long run, the objectives of the organization are achieved. So it basically, strategy is basically a course of action which it would take up so that the objectives can be achieved. Okay, there are various definitions given. So the study material also you can look into the study material and look at what are the various definitions of a strategy. The first one given by CIMA says that it's a course of action, including the specification of resources required to achieve a specific objective. So to achieve an objective, what course of action would be taken up by an organization? Okay, is defined as strategy. So it is basically planning something about how the objectives will be achieved. So it's a plan. It is a course of action which would be taken up considering so many other factors and see that the organization objectives are achieved. There's another definition also given in the study material given by Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. Okay, the strategy is defined here as strategy is the direction and scope of an organization over the long term. So the period of time is mentioned as long term. For short term, we talk about these plans as something else. But if it is a long term period of time, then we refer that to as strategy. Strategy is considering it's focusing on the long term. If it were to be a short term we call that as budgets or short term plans. But strategy is often referred to as a over a period of time, over a long period of time. So over this long period of time, what is the direction and scope of the organization which with which they will be able to achieve the organization objectives, which achieves advantage to the organization through its configuration of resources within a changing environment to meet the needs for markets and to fulfill stakeholders' expectations. So stakeholders, we will discuss about stakeholders a little later. So to achieve the objectives, how would they utilize their resources? How do they adapt to the changing environment? Uh, how do they meet the expectations or needs of the market and fulfill the stakeholders' expectations? So, what course of action would be taken in the long run to achieve the objectives by way of resource utilization, adapting themselves to the changing environment, meeting the market demand and other things, and fulfilling the stakeholders' expectations. So, it's given by Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington, a lengthy one, but the summary of it is basically about what is the plan which they would take up to understand that or to see that or ensure that their objectives are achieved. That is what is the strategy. Then we understand what is strategic planning. Strategic planning can also be known as long-term planning or corporate planning. Those alternative names give some insights into the nature of strategic planning. It considers, it says it considers the long term, a period which is above 5 years. It's a long period of time and considers the whole organization. So the planning which is taken up, strategic planning which is taken up for a long period of time, long-term planning or corporate planning. Okay. So what does it do? It considers a long period of time over a 5 years period and considers the whole organization. So the entire organization is considered. Now, if plans are made for department wise, it only focuses or of any one single unit in an organization or one department or one division in an organization. The entire focus would be only towards that particular work, but then integrating so many activities, actions, plans, and then processes, department people, all of them various levels in the hierarchy, integrating all these things and combining them, and to see that as a whole, the organization as a whole, how would they achieve the objectives. That is what is considered under strategic planning. It is not only focusing on one particular aspect, it focuses on the entire organization as a whole. Okay, so when the organization, the people in the organization are working, normally they only understand their nature of work, their department work, that particular activity process. So they may not understand the bigger picture, but then it should be everybody's responsibility to understand that it is not only the small area of work or the responsibility which has to be fulfilled, but it is the bigger picture which they have to achieve. So, strategic planning is that bigger picture for the entire organization. It is not only focusing on one activity, one unit, or one department. It is focusing on the entire organization as a whole, achieving its objectives. So that is considered under strategic planning. It is not for what would be sales for the next year or how would they take up activity of purchasing material, how to hire employees. No, it's not only focusing on one particular activity, but the entire activity of the organization as a whole. Together, how would they achieve the objectives is what is considered under strategic planning. Now, the other characteristics of strategic planning are is that it gives direction to the whole organization and integrates its activities. So, as one unit, organization as one unit, um, as a whole, um, all their activities integrated. How do they proceed further into the future so that the organization as a whole achieves its objectives. Then it considers all stakeholders. Okay, stakeholders. We've used this term in the previous slide also. Who are the stakeholders? Would you mention or just list out some of them? Who are stakeholders? Who are associated with the organization? Who may get benefited or may not get benefited from the organization?
Shareholders.
Shareholders, investors, right? Good. All types of investors also we can put it as
Employees.
employees. Yes.
Mm.
Then we have employees. Yes. Who are the other stakeholders?
Investors.
Investors or shareholders or investors. Then
Government.
government. Yes.
Was
Okay. I got some answers in the chat box. Competitors. We see competitors. General public, government, customers, community. Um, Community members, suppliers. Yes, good. There's so many answers there in the chat box. We see that yes, customers are the stakeholders, government, community, the general public in general, the public, the competitors, the peers who are there in the industry, the customers, the suppliers, all of them are stakeholders. Creditors, yes, suppliers, creditors who supply material or those who extend amount to the business for as investors in the capacity of investors, banks and financial institutions. Yes, yes, very good answers. Now, when the strategy is framed, the strategy is decided for the organization. It considers all the stakeholders. All of them are considered, right? Um, and the strategy also addresses their requirements, their benefits, the information which should be made available to them, all of them are included in that. All these aspects are considered when a strategy is framed because each stakeholder, some of them may get benefited in a I mean, bigger manner, some of them may have small benefits. Some of them are just external parties who are interested to understand the performance of the business, like general public. They may not be having any main interest in the organization in terms of getting some benefit out of that, but generally they would be interested to know about what is going on with the organization, right? All these are stakeholders. So all of them are considered. Then we have, it looks at um, how to gain a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, competitive advantage, what does it mean? Now, when it is focusing on the long period of time, the strategy is focusing on the long period of time. So how do they survive? How do they take over? How do we get they get a better hold on the on various factors? What competitive advantage can they gain in the long run? Has to be understood. Now, what is competitive advantage that which we have to understand here? Okay. Now, it is not about how they produce or what they do. To survive in the market among the competitors, what is that they have to adopt is discussed under competitive advantage. Let's say that some of them adopt cost leadership. That is, they work out on the cost aspect of it, and then they take all possible measures to cut down on the cost. Then, when cost is cut down, the normal way of deciding the selling price is above. adding the profit margin to the cost price, and then the selling price is decided, right? Um, so as high is the cost price, so high, so it will be with the case of selling price also, because obviously nobody would want to forego their profit margin. Adding the profit margin, selling price would be decided. So if the organization takes the liberty of spending cost as they like and add a profit margin to that, obviously the selling price also would be high. Then if it is a high selling price, um, it may be difficult for them to survive in the market among the competitors, because competitors, if there are many competitors, if the markets are if the markets have many um, sellers and many buyers, in that case, then uh, it they do not have that liberty of deciding their own selling price. The selling price would be on par with what is the selling price prevailing in the market, charged by the competitors. Because more or less all of them, because there are many sellers, more or less all of them would have the same selling price which is charged for the similar selling price which is charged for the products. So more or less it would be the same. So in that case, can they have that the possibility of spending all the costs which they think should be incurred and then decide on that? They may not have that advantage or that liberty to spend the cost and decide the selling price. So what option do they have? The other option what they have is, maybe they should be adopting the price which is prevailing in the market, take the selling price, deduct the profit margin, and then arrive at cost, and then stick to this amount of cost. Right? So that is also a situation which can prevail. So if they are forced to take up the price which is prevailing in the market, that's adjusting themselves according to the market. So that situation may exist now or it may arise in the future. For that reason, some of the organization right from the beginning, they take measures to cut down on the cost, bring down the cost price as much as possible. So even in times when the selling price rises, because they have absolutely in control their cost structure, then they can have an advantage in terms of having a better profit margin. Because the selling price is more or less on par with the market. If they work out on cutting down on their cost, if they bring down their cost, then they can have an advantage in terms of making better profit. Sometimes discounts are given in the market during some seasonal sales or clearance sales sometimes. So because all the other competitors are going ahead with these discounts, maybe forcefully the selling price also has to be brought down. In such situations also still they can survive in the market, because they have already gained an advantage or a leadership or in terms of cutting down on their cost. So would they work out on cutting down on their cost is one type of competitive strategy which they can adopt. Or they can think about bringing into many innovations, bringing in a lot of changes, adopting to the latest technology, adding more features to their products, come out with new products to attract various types of customers, various groups of customers, and attract them. Okay, so that could be their strategy. There, that could be their competitive advantage. Okay, um, there are many things which I mean they can think about it. So how do they? What is that they are planning to take up? Whether they want to work out on cutting down on the cost, or they want to add in different features or variations, or bring about technological changes into their product process, everything, or and survive in the market. Okay, we see some of them keep changing with their changing their features of their product. So, and then the customers get attracted to that, and then they keep buying those products again and again. getting attracted to the new features. So, how would they gain an advantage over the market? Is it in terms of bringing down their cost, or in terms of adopting to the new changes? So, it also looks at that part of it. Strategic planning also considers about um, gaining an advantage in terms of what they would be doing in the long run. It says that it relates the organization, its resources and competences to the environment. Anyway, we're going to learn in detail about SWOT analysis. Then it talks about a strategy is not just framed according to what is the desire of the people at the top level. Now, some statement about becoming the number one company in that industry or something like that. Now, a statement is not just sufficient. A desire is not just sufficient. Now, the plan, whatever is framed for the organization, should understand what are the resources available. So, whether it is feasible or not has to be first understood. Desire is something else, but is it possible to achieve that desire is very important, which has to be looked into. What is that they can expect to achieve is expected um, performance. What is the desired performance is different. What is expected performance is different. You may desire as a student, I mean, not degrading anyone, but then as a student, every student would want to be the topper, college number one, best in the group, best in the class, number one in the class. But not everybody has that facility or that feasibility to become the topper or number one. Maybe some of them basically have that intelligence levels. Some of them may not have, they may lack in that. Some of them may be constrained in the time aspect. Maybe they do not have that much time to spend on the preparation of for the exams, um, the material which is available, books and the other resources which are available. Now those things also definitely add to that, and the ability to put in hard work and then consistent performance, all those things also decide whether the student would become a topper. So also for an organization, when they uh, um, plan for the organization what it would want to achieve over a long period of time, it can not just have a desire about what it wants to achieve, it should understand whether it is feasible to achieve. The feasibility, when we are looking at the feasibility part of it, when uh, feasibility of achieving these things, then they have to understand what resources are available to them and the competencies to its environment. Resources available, the resources like you can talk about the capital availability, the other resources like material, whether labor is easily available, skilled workers, employees with technical knowledge. All those are resources. Do they have that? Do they have that kind of technology which they can use? The resources should be looked into, and the competencies. Okay, they may have many employees available, but maybe they are not skilled, maybe they are not trained, maybe they lack that expertise. Um, those things also should be. So, what are we basically looking into? We should understand that um, what are the strengths and weaknesses the organization has. Those things should be looked into. Those things should be taken into consideration. It has to understand the availability of resources, non-availability of resources. If something is not available, that also has to be considered. So availability of resources, then non-availability of resources, all those things also have to be considered, and including the abilities and abilities of the employees and their constraints. Maybe they do not have their weaknesses also should be considered. Considering the resources and competencies of their organization and the members of the organization, they should understand that whether they can survive in the external market and be able to achieve these targets. So they also have to understand that what is the environment which is prevailing, whether they have opportunities to explore the markets, they have the opportunity to earn um, earn the profit margin, may sell the number of units, is the demand available there, is the government supportive, um, are the tax laws supportive. So the external environment also has to be understood. So the strategic planning, it considers the entire organization, considers all the stakeholders, what is the course of action which it would adopt for the long period of time should be understood. Then the organization has to understand um, what are the resources which are available, the competencies of the organization, members of the organization, and relate them to the environment. Can they survive in this environment, in the external environment, and be able to achieve their objectives? External environment, what is the environment like? Is it would it accept the products which are produced? What is the demand for their products? All those aspects also should be taken into consideration. The external environment should be studied about. Is there any possibility to survive, grow, expand, come together with other competitors? Um, how is the government, whether the the policies of the government, are they supporting the business? Those things should be looked into. What is the severity of the competition? How? What are the strategies of the competitors? Those things also have to be considered. So it should be able to relate to the external environment. The next topic is what's the strategic planning process? Now, how do they plan for the organization? What is a strategic planning process? The process of planning for the organization. The first point is when they are considering a long period of time, they have to define what is the very basic purpose of their existence. So they have to define their mission. Um, I think all the colleges also understand a mission, vision statements. Now, those who are going for accreditation, those who go through this process, they make sure that they make every stakeholder of the organization know their mission statement. So you also must be knowing your college mission statement, isn't it? Okay. So the very basic purpose of the organization has to be defined in the mission statement. Then, to achieve the strategy, to achieve the basic purpose, this can be achieved by way of defining them in the objectives. So the objectives are set after the mission statement is defined. Then they establish the objectives which have to be achieved. The objectives, when they have to be achieved, there are three aspects which are considered. That is, first one is internal appraisal, the second one is external appraisal, and stakeholder appraisal. So internal appraisal talks about understanding the internal environment. Just now, what we've discussed about internal environment, to understand the organization, to understand the people in the organization, the culture which is prevailing in the organization, the seriousness of the people in the organization towards achievement of the objectives. So there are various levels of management: the top level, the middle level, and the lower level. So there are various levels of management, people working at different levels, people involved in planning, people involved in execution, implementation of the plans. So they their abilities, their skill set should be understood. Their integrity, ethical values are considered. The work culture is studied. Their seriousness about implementing the objectives or implementing the strategy to achieve the objective should be considered. Um, um, the various levels, the top level and the people who have certain responsibility towards the employees of the organization and their seriousness towards implementation of the strategy. These things have to be first understood. Okay, then they should understand what are they good at, what are their strengths. The strengths are about, maybe they are the leader in the market. They would become the leader in the market over a period of time very easily because of certain advantages they possess. Maybe they have that ability to spend on technological know-how, or they have abundant capital, or they understand the uh, market related issues. Okay, this employees they have are very good. Now these things, the availability of material, availability of labor, these things uh, should be understood in the sense of strengths. Similarly, what are the weaknesses also should be understood. Maybe they do not have the skill set required, that they are not sound in the technical know-how, capital is not abundantly available. So weaknesses also have to be understood. It's not only the strength should be understood, but the weakness also is they have to understand. After appraising the internal scenario, they have to understand their external environment. External environment, understand the environment in which they are, who are their competitors, what is the competition in the market, then the government, the um, role of government, the external um, um, factors like what's the demand for the product. Um, those things will be considered in the external appraisal. So the external factors, how do they affect the organization? Those things would be considered. Then, um, just now you people have listed all the stakeholders, the stakeholder appraisal. What role do they have? Whether they have a bargaining power, are they strong? Maybe the dependence on stakeholders is too high. Sometimes the investors, they also participate in the management. Like suppose venture capitalists invest their amount in the business. In that case, they would want to have a share in the equity, and then they start managing the business, right? Uh, so, how powerful are their stakeholders? What is the role they play? Do they have the bargaining capacity? Like, suppose very few suppliers are available, and for the major part of the input resources, if they are depending on one or few suppliers or very few suppliers are there, definitely they would have a bargaining capacity. They can dictate terms to the business. Similarly, customers, if the major product is produced, major product produced is purchased by uh, a few buyers, then if the business is dependent on those buyers, the buyers can become very powerful. Then they can decide about the pricing part of it. Okay, the various stakeholders and their role, their power to influence decisions, these things also have to be considered. So the stakeholder appraisal. The three aspects are considered, and um, then they have to decide about what are the strategic options. Strategic options, okay. Then we have strategic choice, and then we have plan and implement strategy. After we consider these three things, internal appraisal, external appraisal, and stakeholder appraisal, then this will result in generating the strategic options. Just a minute. Okay, you're able to see the screen. We have then after that, what are the strategic options which are available? Then that should result in what is the strategic choice, and then how do they implement these strategies, and how can they have control measures, monitoring and controlling? How does it take place? So when they analyze the internal, external stakeholder appraisal, um, then they understand their feasibility part of it. Feasibility part of it talks about um, the desired performance. What is that they have? What is their desire to achieve the for the organization is the desired performance, and then they will be able to understand what is their expected performance. What does it mean? Now that they have analyzed their internal situation, their external situation about what does the market have for them, what is the demand, what is the role of government, this, then um, the external factors, other factors, then the stakeholders, all of them when they are analyzed, then they will be able to understand what is their expected performance. Okay, so now they have decided what is that they want to achieve, then they understand what is that they can expect to achieve. If both of them are same, there is no issue at all. If these two things are not same, okay, if there is a gap between what is the desired performance and what is the expected performance, then if they do not match with each other, then we see what is the gap which is there between the desired performance and the expected performance. If there is a gap between these things, then what would they do to close the gap? Because when the organization is established, it is established with a very basic purpose, what it wants to achieve. That's the desired purpose, desired performance, or desired things which they want to achieve for the organization. But the desire, if it doesn't match with the expectation, expected performance is decided considering the internal appraisal, internal factors, external factors, and then the various stakeholders and their role in the organization. After understanding all these things, then they understand what is their expected performance. If both of them are not on par, then there is a gap between these two. When there is a gap between these two, measures should be taken to close the gap. How would they close the gap? Is about generating what are the strategic options. So what is that they would do to close the gap? So that is what has to be understood. After that, after that, to close the gap, what should they do? How would they close the gap? If there is a difference between what is the desired performance and the expected performance, what measures would they do to take up so that the gap can be closed? Like we've discussed some time back about adopting a cost leadership. Maybe they can work out on having a hold or control over the cost aspect um, right from the beginning. So if their focus is on controlling the cost, so maybe they should adopt that controlling the cost, or they want to go for innovation, technical updation, technical know-how, being strong in those areas, then maybe they should adopt those things. So what choice of actions would they take up to see that the gap is closed? Now gap arises when considering all the factors, if they are not able to achieve the desired performance, then to close that gap which has arisen because of which arises because of the difference between the desired performance and expected performance, then they could close that gap. Okay, then when they decide on what is their strategic choice, what course of action would they take, based on that they plan for the organization and implement the strategy. Now, the plan is decided, the course of action is decided, and the implementation comes into picture. When the implementation comes into picture, then the actual um, plan is implemented. If just implementation is done, it is not. It doesn't convey anything, because the uh, implementation, whether it is according to what is planned or not, has to be verified. Okay, so then every time when there is an implementation, it should be compared with what is the plan. So comparing comparison helps them to have a control. So we say planning and control go hand in hand. So whenever there is a plan, strategy is basically about planning for the organization. Whenever there is a plan, this plan should be supported with the control. Okay, so control measures should be taken. But how is it possible to implement control? The actuals or the implementation of the strategy should be compared with the plan, the actual strategy. So what did they decide? What is that they want to achieve, and then how would they achieve? When how would they achieve when it is defined in a plan, the actual implementation should be compared with the plan, and whether it is on par with the plan or not should be verified. If it is not, then the measure should be taken to correct that. So that's control measures. Now, the best example what we can quote of late, whenever we are set out to go to a new place, we are not aware of the location aspects of it. In that case, what do we do is we feed the destination in Google Maps, and then we are set out on going to that particular place. And then halfway through, we want to be sure that we are on the right track. Then what do? We verify with the Google Map, and then Google Map indicates that yes, you are on the right track, or if you have deviated, it indicates that you've taken a wrong lane, and then it also hints how to come back onto the right track. Okay, these are the this is an example what we can relate to control measures in case of strategic planning. So when it indicates that you have to take up a right track, and then you come back onto the right track to see that you reach the destination, right? So also in case of strategy, the strategy implementation is compared with the plan. So if they are on par, yes, it's fine. But if there are variations, then control measures are taken to see that there are no deviations. Right? Then the feedback is given. The feedback is given to this analysis process of internal, external stakeholder analysis. The control measures are connected to that. The control is again connected to establishing the objectives also. The arrow is connected to establishing objectives. We see that one. This goes here, and it connects to the analysis of internal, external, and stakeholder. It also goes and connects it to um, objectives. What does it mean? So there is feedback given. The feedback is given for the analysis purpose. So what are the measures which should be taken to see that there are no deviations? So that is one feedback which is passed on to see that they are on the right track. Sometimes the objectives which are defined for the organization may not be possible to achieve. They may be uh, the standards may be very high. It is not possible to achieve such objectives because it is not just possible. So a feedback is also given to the objectives, establishing the objectives. So if there is a feedback which is given about the objectives that it is not feasible to achieve these objectives, then measures are taken to even revise those objectives according to the um, possibility to achieve them. If it is not possible, then having them as objectives makes no sense. So maybe they alter that, change those, revise those objectives. So there is a feedback which is passed on to the process which is taken up to achieve the objectives. So from time to time, then when the control measures are exercised, a feedback is conveyed to the process to correct their deviations, or sometimes it is also the feedback is also given to the objectives, the process of setting the objectives to convey the message that the objectives are not possible to be achieved. Then they may revise their objectives and redefine their objectives. Any doubts still here? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
The next topic what we will look at is what are the various levels of strategy. So we'll do this topic and then maybe before the time before 11:30, I will hand over this to your internal faculty. They will join and then they'll have a word with you. I do not know about what, but I think they want to address you on some issue. So maybe the class will not go till 11:30. I will stop maybe some 15-20 minutes before only I will stop. There are three different levels of strategy. Now that's given um, in the form of a pyramid. Do you see that it's in the form of a pyramid? And at the top level, we see that it's a corporate strategy. At the middle of this pyramid, we see the business strategy, and then at the low level, at the down, at the bottom of the pyramid, we see that the functional strategy. There are three different levels of strategy. Right now, it's rightly framed in the form of a pyramid. So as we go up, we have this corporate strategy. At the lowest level, we have the functional strategy. So we'll look into what are these levels of strategy is what we will understand. First one, the corporate or strategic level. If it is at the top, at the pinnacle, whom do we see being there at the top level? It is the top level management who are there at the top level, right? So at the top, when we see that it is a corporate or strategic level, okay. So what is their role in the strategy? What is their role in the strategy? It talks about. It raises the question of which businesses and markets should we be in. It involves considering acquisition and diversification. So there are certain course of actions which are defined here. I mean, about the strategy, what should be considered. Then it talks about corporate strategies considered concerned with entering new industries, leaving industries. So what are they basically focusing on? What do we understand about it? Now, when we see that it is at the top level, at the pinnacle, at the top level, if they are talking about the corporate strategy, so it's about the planning which is taken up for the entire organization. It is not focusing on one aspect of it, it is focusing on the entire organization. So, as a whole, the organization as a whole, what is the planning which will be taken up? That is what is decided at the corporate or strategic level. Now, what do they think about? What do they plan about at that level, at the top level, for the entire organization? What would they be doing at? So, the areas of concern at the strategic level would be how would the organization as a whole survive and excel in the market? That is what is their focus. 1 minute, 1 minute. Please give me 1 minute's time. Okay. Fine. We are discussing about the business. Okay. At the corporate level, the corporate strategy, at this level, at the top level, they plan for the entire organization. What's the course of action which has to be taken for the entire organization is what is looked into. It raises the question of which businesses and markets should be in. So the point is about what should be taken, what course of action should be taken, what are the various products, the deciding about the product mix, the products which should be produced, exploring into different markets, where should they focus on, are there any unexplored markets, how would they enter into a new market. So these are the plans which are taken up for the organization as a whole. Okay. It raises the question of which businesses and markets should uh, be in. Then it talks about um, would they consider growing on an incremental basis, that is, year after year, achieving slow and steady growth, incremental growth. Are they planning to grow in that particular aspect, or sometimes they take a bigger jump? Okay, the jump is in terms of acquiring a new business. Okay, acquiring the stake in another business, then um, the organization size automatically will increase when they acquire another business. So that is taking a jump instead of growing in a normal regular procedure of growing incrementally, that is year after year, they sell more number of units, gaining a better hold on the market share, acquiring new customers. That is a slow and gradual process. So that's an incremental growth. But instead of that, if they are considering about acquiring a new business, another business, and okay, they tie up with another business. In that case, they can grow much faster. That's one thing. Or diversification. Diversification is if they have started with one type of product, they can enter into another completely diverse area. Okay? We see that so many companies going into absolutely new zones, new areas. Okay, we see reliance is there in almost every aspect of it. Okay, so initially when they started, okay, it was only textile business, then it went into petrol. We see them having their space in telecom, then the retail marketing, the FMCG, all types of areas their presence is there. We see so many companies who have entered into diverse areas and diverse markets, and then they have grown. So, is it about diversification? Is it about acquisition? Okay, and we'll see an organization being in more than one business is about diversification. So, are they planning to acquire another business and grow at a faster pace, or uh, thinking about diversifying into various areas and various um, zones and then companies and then products and then grow? Okay, is that what is planned for the organization? Then corporate strategy is concerned with entering into new industries and leaving new industries. Somewhere, if it has come to a decline state, we understand the product life cycle, isn't it? So if it reaches the decline stage, and in that case, it is better that they leave that particular industry because we see that the various phases of the life cycle. So after a while, the product reaches a decline stage. So if there is a decline stage, then there is no point investing in that. The further investment, it stops even while it reaches the maturity stage. So they would not be pouring into that particular business more and more funds. Now slowly it's time to withdraw from that market. So when they withdraw from the market, um, already investments are made into that, and then they have reached that satura- saturation and decline stage. So now, um, now is the time for exit the industry, exit that particular industry in terms of the product and their company, so that the investment amounts whatever are made, now they can be diverted towards a new product or business. The investment whatever is already made into this, now once they start withdrawing, now whatever are the investments which they have made, now these investments can be diverted, transferred, or invested in some other new businesses which have scope for growth. So these are the plans which are taken up at the top level, at the strategic level. So corporate or strategic level. Okay, what should be done? Which market, which product? That is what they plan for that. To survive and grow in the market, what strategies would they adopt? That is at the top level. Then at the middle level, okay, a middle level is more focused about planning for the organization. So it is involved about the planning within the organization, what course of action will be implemented. That is what is the middle level management concerned with. So once selected the market, the organization must develop a plan to be successful in the market. So how would they go ahead? So for that, they require a plan within the organization. For the organization to be a plan to be implemented, a plan has to be prepared, and this plan is prepared by the middle level. Okay, the middle level or the management level, business or management level. At that level, they are involved in planning. So they prepare plans to be successful in the market. The aim is to compete successfully in the individual markets that the company chooses to operate in. After the overall plan is decided, then what course of action should be taken up would be planned by the middle level management. Um, the business strategy is concerned with, what is it concerned with? It's concerned with achieving advantage over competitors, avoiding competitive advantage. Okay, then so they plan about how to gain advantage over their competitors, and then how to face the competitive advantage of their competitors. So if they have already adopted a strategy, competitive advantage, just now some time back we discussed about advantage can be gained in terms of cutting down on their cost, they work out on their cost, they bring down their cost, or um, they use innovation as their advantage. They spend lot of amount in research and development, come out with the new things for their new features or new products, and then attract the customers. So, what is their advantage which they would be adopting to win over their competitors, or how do they face the competitors' competitive advantage? Okay, so that also they have to understand. Then it says that corporate strategy affects the organization as a whole, while business strategy will focus upon strategic business units. But what are strategic business units? Now, as a whole, to measure the performance and to see that the course of action is implemented, as a whole, it may not be possible, depending on the size and structure of the organization. Then, in that case, what has to be done? The organization should be divided into smaller units depending on either functions or activities or process or products. So, various aspects, the organization is divided into small business units. So these are called as strategic business units. Now the middle level planning is focused on the um, planning for the strategic business units. At the business or management level, planning is about planning for the SBUs. But what is an SBU? SBU will be a unit within an organization. It is one part of the organization for which there is an external market for products distinct from other units. So they are divided into units. Okay. Sometimes when these units have the ability to sell their product, so these strategic business units also generate revenue for their unit. Okay. Sometimes not all strategic business units can generate, but if there is a possibility of generating revenue, then they will take up planning for their organization, for their SBU, for their unit in terms of how they would incur cost, how they would sell their products, what revenue would be generated, and how their performance is evaluated. That would be taken care of by that strategic business unit as a unit of the organization. Though they are divided, though they are separated, because of um, the features of incurring cost and generating revenue, when they are separated, they can manage their activities, but all the while the strategic business unit should understand it is a part of the entire organization, but not an isolated unit. Right? So their goals and objectives, their planning should go on par with the planning of the organization. It should go on par with the strategic planning. So they should not have objectives which are different from the objectives of the organization. So they are separated. Why are they separated? Why are they considered as separate units, strategic business units? Is for the purpose of managing it well, for the purpose of managing the organization well. Um, each strategic business unit will have a manager who's given the authority to take decisions, and based on the decisions, the manager is also held accountable. So that responsibility, accountability also comes into picture. So corporate strategy, when it is focusing for the entire organization, the middle level managed strategy, the middle level management of the strategy will focus only on these small units, the strategic business units. Their focus is on the strategic business units as to what course of actions or what decisions will be taken for the strategic business unit. Then we see the functional or operational level. Operational level is the level at which the implementation happens. Okay, so they implement the plan. So for the implementation part of it, they are concerned with human resource strategy, marketing strategy, information systems and technology strategy, and operational strategy. So at the implementation level, they're more focused about um, how to actually implement that. Now, the implementation, when it comes into implementation, we also call this the functional, the function wise, the functional level or the operational level. So there are various functions of the business, like the main operation, that's the production activity for a manufacturing unit, for a service unit, what is the main operation for that? How would they take up, how do they implement that? It's the operational strategy. After production, it talks about the administration part of it. Then the administration, the selling and distribution. The human resource strategy focuses on how to recruit, train, and place the employees into various functions. So human resource strategy deals with uh, the human beings. Okay. So now, how are they recruited? What strategy? I mean, what is the procedure which is followed to um, recruit the employees? After recruitment considers their skill set and all, but after recruitment, their skills have to be developed or some training should be provided to them so that they can start operating in the organization. So, what are their strategies? Then we have the strategies which are adopted to uh, sell their products, market their products. What are the markets which are available? How would they enter into the market, explore the market? So various marketing strategies about penetrating into the market, market skimming. There are so many ways in which they can gain a hold on the market. So uh, we see the marketing strategies. Then um, information systems and technology strategy talks about there is a need for adapting to the changes in the technology. We see that from time to time the systems develop, the technology develops, and there is a need to adopt the changed technology. So, um, why should they adopt to that? Because with the help of that, they will be able to achieve efficiency. So, with the help of information systems and all, this lot which can be achieved. That is, maybe they can better organize things in the activities in the organization, like they can integrate all the activities. Decisions can be taken for the entire organization with the integrated systems, integrated information. Um, Technologically, um, new technology if they have if they adopt it, they can be on par with the competitors, the market. Then um, maybe operating at it requires them to operate at a, a larger level, volume of production. It may take place at a large volume. In that case, manually it may not be possible for them to achieve this. If it is not possible for them to achieve these things, then they have to adopt the new changed technology. So maybe they go for automation, computerization. So um, So even if it is costly affair that they adopt this information technology, information systems, technological systems and all, they will be able to gain that cost advantage because we understand the economies of scale. So at a larger volume of production when they produce, they can gain a competitive advantage in terms of cutting down their cost. Their cost will come down. So, what strategy do they adopt in terms of information systems and technology strategy? Also, has to be now. These are the things. These are the. This is the level at which they are operating. So, this is the operational level. So, the corporate strategy plans for the entire organization. Okay. So, how would this organization survive in the external environment? To face the competition in the external environment, what strategy would they adopt? Is focused on the focused by the corporate strategy. Then the plans which they take up for the organization within the organization, what should they do so that they can um, face the competition externally? What plan should be adopted and implemented in the organization? When that planning is taken up, that is called as the business or management level. The plans which are taken to implement in the organization, that is at the functional or operational level. Is that clear till here? Is that clear till here? Any doubts? No doubts. Okay, let's look at another small topic. Um, what are the advantages and disadvantages of strategic planning is what we'll focus on. And then I'll stop after that because your faculty will address you after that. So I thought I will be ending with this topic, but then let's discuss about what are the advantages and disadvantages of strategic planning. The advantages are it focuses organizations to look ahead. Okay, planning helps them to look into the future, look ahead. It to improved fit with the environment to um, survive in the environment, to be accepted in the environment, improved fit with the environment. They can better use the resources. Now, not all resources are abundantly available. So they have to utilize these resources in such a way that the profitability is maximized. Maximization of profitability is the goal there. So, uh, when they have to spend these resources on various activities, the best activity taken up, which one would give them the better profit? So, better use of resources. So suppose if there is a profit, if there is a product which is not so profitable, um, stop producing that, divert the resources which are required to produce that product to some other product which is more profitable. Okay. So when they have a plan, when they understand what would happen, what will be the result of the course of action, in that case, they can better take the decisions in terms of resource utilization. So resources can be allocated in such a way that they can achieve that better profits. Then it provides a direction and a vision. What has to be done? What is the course of action to be taken up can be understood. And the it helps in monitoring progress. The image properly talks about that. So when the implementation takes place, after the implementation, we see that uh, there is feedback which is given. Feedback which is given um, while they are implemented, um, and also the feedback which is given to see that the objectives are revised if they are not feasible. So here it talks about it helps in monitor progress, monitoring, continuous monitoring. Monitoring it happens when they compare uh, their implementation with the plan, with the strategy. So monitoring is constantly comparing the actual implementation with the planned strategy. Okay, then it ensures goal congruence. That's a term. Goal congruence means when everybody works towards the achievement of the same goal. Achievement of the same goal is the same for the entire organization. So even when they are divided into SBUs, even if they are divided based on some functions or operations, activities, processes, or units, or whatever it is, even if they have their own identity in terms of generating revenue, also everybody should be working towards achievement of the same goal, the goal of the organization. So even after they are divided into subunits, if they work towards the achievement of the organization objective, then it is called as goal congruence. So everybody is working towards achievement of the same goal. Ensures that goal congruence happens because everybody understands what is the strategy. Because once the strategy is prepared, that strategy is communicated to other levels of people. So they understand what is the organization. So that's why they are defined in the form of mission statement, and the strategy, the long-term objectives. They are framed and conveyed to the various levels of people in the organization. So everybody works towards the achievement of the same goal. So it is possible to have a goal congruence. Then what are the disadvantages? Disadvantages, if they are involved in planning, it could be time consuming and expensive business. Okay, that's a disadvantage. Technically, it would not be. See, without a plan, it is definitely not possible to understand whether they were able to achieve it or not. But if they spend lot of time in terms of planning every intricate thing, if it is decided, and then it could be a time consuming business and expensive. Then may be difficult in rapidly changing markets. So strategy is focusing for a very long period of time. More than 5 years is what we have looked into. So if it is for a long period of time, anticipating or planning for a long period of time is not an easy task. The future is uncertain. The very basic feature of future is it is uncertain. What would happen in the future cannot be predicted with certainty. So if the industry is rapidly changing, the markets are rapidly changing, there is too much of technological changes. If it is a seasonal kind of business and uh, anticipating things for a very long period of time will be difficult. So anticipating things to happen in the next year itself or the next operating period itself, it is difficult because it may not be according to what is planned. And planning for a long period of time will be all the more difficult, right? What does it mean by straight jacket? Can become a straight jacket. What does it mean? Anyone? When you observe any one of your faculty members joining the group, please inform me and then I'll stop it there. But they're going to address you now. Um, that's right. He does the thinking. That's right. Um, it is that they are restricted in terms of what course of action should be taken up because everything is planned. So plan is communicated, then according to the plan they implement it, right? So if they are implementing according to the plan, it doesn't give any scope for any change. So they are tight bound on that. Okay. So it hinders them the thinking process. Yes. It doesn't allow them to implement new things or make changes to that because already there is a plan and the implementation should happen according to the plan. So if that is the scenario, maybe they are restricted. They are compelled to follow the plan. Then some unplanned for opportunities may be missed if they have not anticipated and if they are um, going according to the plan, if they are restricted to follow that, and then they may not be able to see certain opportunities which may arise, and because they are not prepared for that, they may miss on those can become bureaucratic because it's the same procedure everybody follows, and then because it may become bureaucratic. Okay, and then is less relevant in a crisis. So some uncertainty arises, some events which arise which are not according to the plan. If there is a variation in the plan, okay, in that case, if there is a crisis which arises, and then this planning becomes irrelevant. Okay, I would like to stop here. Fine. Let's wait for your faculty to join, and then they will take over.
Ankita, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. I'm not sure how to use this.
Video.
Okay, maybe I'll come on laptop. This is not comfortable for me. I'll come again. I'll join you with my laptop.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Students, just wait for a couple of minutes while Deepashi ma'am joins us. We just have a couple of instructions to give you, and also maybe if you have any doubts or queries, also we can answer the same. So just give us a couple of minutes, yes? Miss Annie, are you with us?
Yes, I'm there. I made you the host and I'm leaving the meeting. Okay,
Yes,
you can continue.
yeah.
I made you the host. Please take care of that. I'm
All
leaving that. Okay.
All right.
You will be the
Thank you,
host.
ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.